So, gosh, if any of you actually know Nick or have ever met Nick, you'll know he's a am I allowed to say larger than life character? He's an absolutely fantastic guy, good friend of mine, and yeah, his agency Storm and Shelter produces some incredible video content. Yeah, I think one of my team would describe it as probably lickable video content. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing this one. Just a quick reminder, if you want to submit any questions, just go along to illustrate.digital/WTW and we'll be answering those questions later on. And of course, similarly, if you're watching this back on a recording later on, please feel free to still submit those questions and let us know who the question is to, and we'll happily direct them towards the speakers to help get an answer. Yeah, I am going to shut up again and hand straight over to Nick. Over to you, mate.
Hello, thank you very much. Lickable content is definitely not something I've heard before, but something I 100% I'm going to be moving forward with. Let me
New marketing campaign there for you, I think.
That's it, 100%. Delicious, lickable content. Right, just checking you guys can see my screen okay? Beautiful. So yeah, thanks guys for the invite to come along today. It's really interesting to hear some stuff that Gareth was saying about the retargeting things, and like I say, and how that kind of stuff can really work into the way you produce video content as well, which is really great to hear. But today I'm going to share a couple of thoughts that'll hopefully give some of you guys a bit of an idea about using video for your brand. And like I said, I would have thought maybe some of you have already sort of experimented with video before, but like I say, hopefully this will be a pretty broad introduction to some ideas of things you could do. So us, here we are. So we are a bunch of weirdos, a Cardiff team based of 10 people. We've been going since 2013. So we're just coming to our 7th birthday, which, I mean, for those of you guys out there that are founders that have been running for that long, it's crazy how fast that stuff goes. I literally feels like yesterday we started up. But yeah, we've been doing all kinds of stuff, video content-wise, animation, live action, and it's a real mixed bag. No 2 days are the same. So I'm going to attempt to play a video, which is our show reel, which should give you a bit of an idea of what we do. But at the same time, this is a stream and it's a very fast-paced show reel. So it might just be an interesting selection of just stills. But at the same time, hopefully you'll be able to enjoy it. So hopefully you managed to glean something out of that at least. But basically, yeah, so a little bit more about us. So again, you get to see a bit of an example of the kinds of stuff we do there. So as I was saying, it's a mixture of live action and animation stuff. Over 450 projects done, 150 odd clients, which is crazy. And that's to say a mixture of everything. And you can see a couple of them down there. We did Spitfire with Microsoft. Recently done a bit of campaign content for Twitter, which was a load of fun. O2, BT, Yamaha, just amongst a couple of them. And yeah, we do a mixture of campaign content, TV commercials as well, which is seeing a bit more of a resurgence, which is nice to see, and a lot of social media content as well. And we look after the whole shebang. So from the strategy side of stuff, so to make sure that you don't just chuck a video out there, it gets like 12 views and a like off your nan, so that actually people see it and enjoy it. And we do the creative throughout and production as well as a full service. A little cheeky plug here as well. Just a couple of words here from Amplify, who's a client we've worked with on a long-term basis. They're a sub-brand of Focusrite Novation. So for those of you into your music or any sort of podcasting stuff, they do a lot of sort of audio interfaces, but this sub-brand makes music-making apps. They launched a new product, which we work with them on their video content for. So that included a hero video for the launch, as well as a bunch of social content to support the launch as well, which rolled out over time. And yeah, it's great to hear from them that the video content that we made was integral to their advertising strategy, especially considering this kind of stuff came out during COVID as well. So they needed this kind of stuff, which was great. And obviously they've said some other nice words there, but we'll just glance over those. So Craig, let's get straight into it. So just some statistics here. So bits of info that'll give you a bit of idea of why people bother with video and why it's a really great thing to consider in terms of advertising your product and service. So 2/3 of people, 66% of people said they prefer to watch a short video to learn about a product or a service. Like, that's huge. And, you know, I think it's pretty relatable. I'm pretty sure that a lot of you will have been on a website, and I do it all the time, where you go on the website and you're looking for that play button. You're looking to find out a bit about them and you want to watch the video. And sometimes if you don't see it, you're like, oh, I've got to read? I've got to read stuff? What's this about? So like I say, within that, same survey said only 18% of people would actually rather read something than watch a video. And at the end of the day, when you're going to be putting a video on your website or whatever, something like that, you're probably going to put a bunch of text next to it anyway. So without doing the video, you're missing out on 2/3 of people who could really engage with your product or service. This one kind of speaks for itself. Video ads are the #1 way consumers discovered a brand they later purchased from. Again, I don't know if you're anything like me, but my better half pretty much on the daily is going, oh, I think I might get this thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, where'd you see it? And they're like, oh, I saw it on a video on Instagram. And I think that's kind of indicative of just how much people do engage with this stuff. And again, a really interesting fact. This one's a really big takeaway for those of you who are really into your thought leadership and actually want to push the recruitment side of things. LinkedIn users 20 times more likely to share a video than any other type of post. Like, that is a massive difference. 20x is huge. And like I say, it's definitely worth considering if you're trying to put yourself out there as a thought leader. And especially when it comes to recruitment, culture-based content is always really engaging and does really well on the platform. So nailing that kind of content and getting your employees to share that as well is a great Kickstarter for a recruitment drive too. But we'll go over a couple of different options for stuff we can do with that as well in a minute. And I say it's a no-brainer. 99% of people that use video would use it again. Again, if it works that well and people are that into it, it completely makes sense for you to get into it if you haven't yet. So again, so why even bother with it? So obviously the high user engagement stuff is basically a given by now. I'm pretty sure we all know like how much video dominates social media. There is more of a recent shift as of late for long form content actually proving to be incredibly engaging stuff. Featurettes, specials, spotlights, things that are, 5, 10, 15 minutes are doing really, really well versus your sort of 2 to 3 minute thing. And we've been harking on for a long time about this attention deficit, which is definitely still worth considering. If you are making short, social, punchy ads, you definitely still need to think about that 3 to 6 second catch point. But at the same time, for certain kinds of uses, certain kinds of audiences, it's definitely worth not ruling out that long form content stuff. And I think, again, ease of perception and education is a really important thing to consider as well in terms of the power of video. I think one of the best examples of this is pretty much like, if you ever been on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, you're just scrolling idly by, and before you know it, you've spent 5 minutes learning about like the life story of this animal that was rescued and rehabilitated in a zoo. Like, you would never have instantly gone and looked out for that kind of stuff, but you realize you've looked at the time and you're like, oh Christ, it's been like 5 minutes already. But it's just because that stuff is so engaging, the educational side of it just comes naturally. So yeah, again, like, it's very easy to understand. That kind of ties in with the idea of demonstration of UI and interaction. So for tech brands in particular, for those of you guys, that are using an app, a web app or whatever, you can really visualize that customer journey. It's not necessarily just a walkthrough. You can use all different kinds of ways of really getting people to understand how this stuff works and how it's going to benefit them. And for verification of ideas, early stage feedback, again, when we're talking about pitch videos, when we're talking about crowdfunding videos, they're almost like the norm now. And that's because of everything we've said already. That engagement, the understanding, the great way of getting across any perception-based stuff, demonstration stuff. It's all encompassed in there. So again, a great way to get people to understand what you do in a really succinct way as well. So what kind of video content should you be making? It's a really mixed bag, and it can fill up a whole slide and more probably with some more bits and bobs you could do. But just a couple of them that you could really focus on as a tech brand are explainer videos, as we touched on just for now. Product promos. So again, just really talking about your product. I think something that's really worth considering, especially for smaller brands, are customer success. Now, one thing that, as a bigger brand, if you're working alongside bigger companies, say if you're a B2B company, you're going to be sort of trying to say, oh, we work with Apple, or we work with Oracle. We've got all this kind of amazing like client list to be able to get these testimonials from. But when you're working on a smaller scale, and you kind of see like a random name and you're like, oh, I don't really know that brand. Like, is that going to be any good for me? Like, why is no one bigger using this? Being able to actually, rather than having just a text-based testimonial, having it as a video where you've got your customer in the flesh saying, oh, look, this is how much it's made a difference to me, showing them actually using it, interacting with it. Again, it builds the trust because you've got the human element of that. So it doesn't really matter how big they are or how well known they are. Literally seeing it in a real environment makes a big difference. And that trust side of stuff is a really, really important thing to consider. And again, culture and about us kind of stuff, as I mentioned before, an amazing tool for recruitment. There are a load of ways to do those incredibly badly, but there's a really good way of doing them well. And that's why, realistically, I see people who do these themselves and they're horrendous. But again, there's some really, really great ways of being able to sort of champion your brand and the people who work for you that ultimately then amplify what you do to a bigger audience. And people get pumped about wanting to work there, not just for recruitment, but also for potential clients, because people do business with people, right? You kind of want to be able to be like, oh, these guys seem like nice people. They kind of know what they're doing as well. Great, I can work with these guys over this other faceless company. So let's have a look through a couple of examples here. So I'm going to just play these in the background. There's no sound. I'm just going to just chat over them as well. Again, not sure how well these are going to play, but fingers crossed. So a brief came in from Mazuma, an accountancy firm. Brief came in and they were like, cool, man, we got to make accountancy look exciting. Oh my God, how are we going to do that? So we ended up sort of working with them on a text-based animation, showing off a lot of their brand that was done by Blue Egg, based in Cardiff. A really nice brand to work with. So then we were able to really play with the branding, play with some of the word marks, some of the elements they put in the brand, and really bring it to life, which is great. Really, that in-your-face motion really works well on social. It's very sort of like, bang, 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 get the key messages across, eye-catching stuff. As you might be able to see, there's no UI, there's no walkthrough. It's not an in-depth thing that really teaches people how to use it. It's an initial touch point for socials. So it's basically it's that first touch point of going, oh, okay, this looks interesting. And the way to get that across in terms of the narrative of it is that problem, solution, outcome. Understanding the problem, accountancy is really annoying. The solution, this great service, and the outcome, never have to worry about it again. And at that point, then that draws people through into the website. Another example here is Resource Guru. I just want to check that these are actually playing back. Or you can hear me at least. Is that a thumbs up? Great, cool, beautiful. So Resource Guru here. This was, again, another thing in terms of another challenge, team scheduling app. Now, I don't know how many of you already are involved in scheduling a team. It's not necessarily the most glitzy affair in the world. And again, like before this, the guys had a sort of just like a screen cap walkthrough video, which both of us knew wasn't really right for where they were looking to pull in their target market, which was very American-based, large teams, dealing with a lot of things coming in and sort of having a really busy resource planning. So we went for a more comedic, American-based vibe. So we had American actors, American voiceovers, and really sort of focusing on that target market and the user base that they were trying to get on top of. And as you can see throughout it as well, we basically had like a live action and animation mix. So you can see where we've got sort of real life interactions with people to sort of really push the relatability. The comedy comes from the fact that you have to deal with a lot of this stuff on a day-to-day basis, and this is how Resource Guru helps to alleviate those situations. And then, like I say, the user interaction, then showing behind them, interacting with them, which was really nice, and it really helped sell it really well. This again, it's less social focused. Whereas opposed to the Mazuma one, where you could see was very in your face the whole time, this is more of a walkthrough video, which is, again, more for conversion, educating potential customers. So again, this would mainly sit on the website. So you wouldn't necessarily see it pumped out on social often. There'd be different content for that. This would be for when they finally land on the website. They're like, oh, this looks really cool. Click it. I want to find out more. It's in-depth enough, around about sort of 2 minutes. Not too long that people will trail off too much. But again, they've got a lot of great features they wanted to get across. But again, so much nicer than just a screen recording, which I know a lot of people budget as well is tied into that, where that may only feel like the only option. But there are a bunch of ways of skinning the cat for sure. One that I say, we can't say that we can take the credit for this one, but this is some stuff for Frame.io. So Frame.io are a video review platform that we use here at Storm & Shelter. And we basically use it for content review. So say when we've got works in progress, we upload it to the service. Clients can then leave their comments directly in there so that all the feedback is just nice and contained and it's not emails pinging around all the time. Oh my God, it's a godsend. But essentially, people wanted to know, obviously, as COVID hit, everyone changed their working patterns, working routines, and their setups. Everyone wants to know how on earth they're going to keep their workflow the same. So when it comes to post-production, so editing and color, a workflow is incredibly important to make sure that the right files are going to the right place and that the software is talking to one another. This kind of content was made during lockdown, and it's basically a full series that they did sort of over a couple of weeks, telling people some tips and tricks on how to actually set up their workflow from home. Incredibly informative, incredibly educational stuff. And it really helped us. It really helps others around them. It is self-produced by them, but it obviously really helps that they know video. But this kind of content really adds value for the client base and sort of existing customers. I think, there are others out there that are doing the same thing. Like there's another company called Whipster that basically does exactly the same thing. And Vimeo has started cottoning onto it and are doing the same thing themselves now. But the difference is that their content is quite general in nature. It's kind of just talking, some, cliches or whatever, some, top 10 tips to do whatever. Whereas this stuff, it really positions them like as a thought leader in the space. And an expert in the field, because it's so in depth, because they talk about certain things that others really wouldn't bother with. They go really deep on it, and it really helps to build that level of trust, as we were talking about before. Trust in the brand to know that they're really gonna look after you, and they're really gonna keep pushing technically the excellence of the product. But again, it also makes other people who are using maybe those other pieces of software go, oh, all right. Oh, well, our guys don't really care about this. Do they know enough about it? Like, actually, these guys seem as if they know what they're doing, and we'll end up trusting them more. Again, a really interesting thing about this is, making sure that you're understanding what your customers or your client base or people in the industry are asking. I think it's kind of a very simple part of content marketing in general, is that idea of they ask, you answer. I don't know if you guys have read that book, but don't download the audiobook because the guy on it is really annoying. But it's essentially all about the idea of your customers ask questions, you should answer them. And by doing so, it positions you as a knowledgeable thought leader and ultimately builds that trust. And doing that through video stuff is even more important. The face to it, it feels a lot more in depth. And like I say, people connect with people a lot more than they would just text in a blog post anyway. But like I say, it's a great example of how to integrate that into content too. So quickly, let's have a look over what we've kind of gone over today. Hopefully your brains don't look like that by this point. But essentially, videos are engaging. more so than other content types that are out there. They're incredibly versatile. There's so many different ways you can use it in your business, not just direct advertising, but again, as we mentioned, sort of like recruitment, thought leadership, educational stuff. It's not just the traditional sales funnel. It's the relatively the wider aspect of how you present your brand to the world. It's obviously, again, still a great way traditionally to get your brand out there. And again, as with Resource Guru, it's a great way to transform those sort of interested parties into paying customers as a conversion tool. And I say just a great way to keep your customer base engaged after their purchases, especially if as a subscription platform. I know that, sometimes certain subscription platforms, you're signed up to them, you're realizing that actually I get like one newsletter a month, and you're like, okay, you kind of almost forget that they're actually a proper brand. It's just a service that runs. Stuff like this, stuff like the Frame.io stuff, that sort of you ask, you answer stuff is a great way to keep your customer base engaged throughout and championing your brand as well as that kind of thought leader and having that trust in them. I think it's really interesting to think, especially with that kind of stuff and the climate we're in right now, it doesn't necessarily have to be mega glitzy, really brutally produced stuff in that sense, especially for this touch point stuff, thought leadership bits, vlogs. Just doing it yourself, and it's so accessible in terms of some of the kit to be able to do that nowadays. Like I say, you may as well do it and roll with it. Again, especially if you're looking to put that kind of stuff out on LinkedIn as well. Definitely worth considering, because there is a bit more of a leniency at the moment, because so much content is being made from home, that quality doesn't necessarily have to be a massive aspect of the selling points in terms of how effective your content is. And again, just to round up, just some stuff for you to think about, to take away from today. It's definitely worth thinking about how you engage with video content yourself. Like, what's the kind of stuff that really draws you in personally? Is it those really high-end glossy ads that you see? Is that the kind of stuff that makes you go, oh, wow, that brand's amazing? Is it sort of motion graphic stuff, like animation-based things that actually sort of catch your eye more traditionally? Or actually, is it like that really homebrew, like organic feeling, user-generated content, i.e. people actually making it themselves on behalf of your brand, that is really prominent at the moment, and can be really effective when used in different ways. Another thing is in terms of easily visualizing your product and service. Could you potentially put that elevator pitch together so it's a 30-second thing but visual? That's kind of what our job is. Usually we'll tend to just get the life story of a brand put in front of us, and we just go, great, okay, wicked, let's look at how we can refine this down into something that is like Joe Blogsified. That's why I like to think of it as. You basically go in, right, okay, I understand you've got a lot of technical stuff in here that kind of really does resonate with some people, but not the kind of people maybe you're going after at this particular part of the funnel. So you have to basically Joe Blogsify it so that anyone can watch it and go, oh, okay, cool, I understand what it's all about. So we work with you usually on getting that done as well. And yeah, what questions do your customers and clients ask the most? Again, like you say, really do an experiment with this with vlogs and stuff. Now is a perfect time to do that. And yeah, I mean, just a little bit there, maybe it's worth giving us a shout, seeing if we can help you out in making that start and making a dent in the market there, and really try and explore all the different aspects of your business and how video content can really push it to where you want to be and where it deserves to be as well. So yeah, thanks very much. And yeah, if you've got any questions, feel free to bung them in the link. But yeah, I'll stick around for that. But thanks again, guys, for getting me involved.
Awesome, thanks so much, Nick. And I really like your way of doing cheeky plugs. Not many people can get away with that, but you seem to have a way with it. So yeah, pretty smooth.
Thank you.
I've got to share this with you. So as the sort of questions have been coming in and that sort of thing, we've got some really good questions from the people watching. But someone texted me separately to say that when you asked for a thumbs up from us to say that it was working, they put their thumbs up on screen only to realise that you couldn't see them watching at home. So yeah, thanks so much for that, Nick. I mean, 452 projects is a heck of a lot. Like that is smashing it out. That's one wicked team. But yeah, I think you're totally right. I think every piece of content that someone creates as a brand has a lot of noise around it. But video content, I saw a stat that says video content accounts for like 80% of all retention versus 20% of what someone reads. And it sort of aligns with what you're saying about 2/3 people engage with video. And yeah, I think it's great to use video to show a journey, great to use video to capture people in, and to break through that noise, I guess. So yeah, as Nick says, if you're looking for a company to help, you might know one.